Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available, of course, through Podbean, Spotify, Apple iTunes. Wherever you pick up your audio version show, you will find us there. Just search Dynamo Podcast Network and look up the Upper Tier. Joining me today for our Premier League preview, where we look at the opening weekend, the fixtures, and we're going to give a few predictions here. Craig, as always, how we doing, Craig? Love that jersey.
Oh, good. Yeah, can't wait to roll on the weekend. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're 2 days out now from this start. This feels like it's been a long road because of the Euros and stuff like that. But in actual fact, it's flown in and come up real quick. We're 2 days off. So let's kick this off and get into these fixtures. Starting Friday night, 8 o'clock. A very tricky trip for Arsenal to Brentford. Fans in the new stadium. These are great fans. They play a lovely brand of football. You've seen it in the playoffs. My thoughts, and I mentioned it on a couple of shows already, this to me is a very sticky starting game for Arsenal.
I'm going Brentford.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
Coming up from the Championship, absolutely stunning stadium. The facilities look absolutely immense. Premier League quality, you could say. Play a lovely brand of football under Thomas Frank, the Denmark national coach. He's got them playing. It kind of reminds me a bit of Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, under his style, and then it kind of develops onto the pitch into a certain style of attraction football. Yeah. They won't change. They won't change the way they play when they come to the Premier League. I think he's a very good manager. I think he's going to be one that we're going to be getting accustomed to, whether it be Brentford or elsewhere. A player who I kind of kept my eye on a lot, even before he went to Brentford, was Ivan Toney, striker who didn't work out at Newcastle. And to be fair to him, he went down to the lower leagues and kicked back off again. Went to Peterborough, scored a bag full of goals, got the move to Brentford, replacing Ollie Watkins, which is very hard to do after the season that he had. Rightfully got his move to the Premier League. If Brentford didn't go up, I think Toney would have got a move to the Premier League, in my opinion. They also have a player you're very familiar with, is Sergi Canos, the former Liverpool player, who has settled really nicely and a very big part of the fold there. And Brian Mbeumo is another player who, like Benrahma and Watkins, was very influential in the success. So that should be very noted as well. But he stayed at the club and he's coming up with them into the Premier League. Have Arsenal done enough on an opening day to give them a solidified position, as in they should go into the game favourite over Brentford? Absolutely not, in my opinion. I would be, if I was a betting man, I think Brentford will fancy it with the fans back and the new stadium. Arsenal, do they have the fight? Do they have the steel? Do they have the ambition to fight in a game where this is a team coming up sensing, we're not going to come up here just to be taking points off us. And, no disrespect to Arsenal, but do Brentford really fear them? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so, because I'm looking at pre-season there and I'm thinking, and no disrespect to Arsenal or Arsenal fans and stuff like that, because Arsenal would be a team that I loved down through the years. Even being a Liverpool fan, I often say to people, if I didn't follow Liverpool, I would have followed Arsenal. I've seen all those great teams with Henry and Bergkamp and Adams and all these guys, were outstanding. But I just think, I look at pre-season, it's the same old Arsenal. It's the same old Arsenal again. It's like nothing has changed. It's the same mistakes. That back line is absolutely, to think that back line is Arsenal Football Club is absolutely shocking.
It's shambolic.
Yeah, it's an absolute joke that's the position that they find themselves in. Considering when you think down through the years, the Arsenal teams and the defences that they had there, Sol Campbell, Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Bold, Dixon, all these players, it's absolutely shambolic.
But I think as well, Niall, you touched on something really good there. That goes through the spine. The Vieiras, the Lundbergs, the fucking Henrys, the Bergkamps. Where's the big presences? Who's gonna get the lads going? Do you know what? If I was in the dressing room, you would probably look at. I'm probably gonna say Kieran Tierney. Maybe has that in him.
Yeah, well, I think in fairness to Xhaka, I think Xhaka, if he's treated the right way, he's supposed to be staying and signing a new contract, and I think he really is. I think he has leader
material, and I think the fans got him wrong that time. I think he was just showing a bit of passion and a bit of agitation,
frustration. Yeah, absolutely. But
I do think
this is going to
that
be a huge season, isn't it, for Aubameyang? This guy needs to step up now. He was shocking last season.
he was a player that, another one of those, you look at the Bundesliga and we all probably had our eye on him. When Arsenal got him, expected big things, but it doesn't look like he cares at times. It looks like he just kind of, I'll play on the wing. I'm not really bothered. Like, I'm not really in the game. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I was
Nothing
talking.
seems to change with him. He
Yeah,
doesn't care. He cares about his hairstyles and all that more than bleeding Arsenal.
yeah. I appeared on GP Productions last night. They did a preview for the Premier League as well. I was talking to a fan there, James, an Arsenal fan, lovely lad. And he, like I was saying to him, really, Aubameyang is your captain. If you've got Smith Rowe in there and Tierney and Saka and all this youth, I mean, this is the guy that they're looking to who's the captain. I mean, he just constantly does stupid things all the time off the pitch. And I just think it's ridiculous. There he was. They were mentioned there, even the other day, he was caught driving with using his mobile. You know what I mean? Like, just absolute idiots, you know what I mean? And these are the guys, the Smith Rowes and the Sakas, and not so much Tierney, because I think Tierney's like, he flies his own flag anyway. He knows how good he is, and he's captain material as well. But I just think with Arsenal, I think it's always this thing of, Project Arteta, bring in this, bring in that, bring in the other. And I'm just thinking, it's just, they just can't seem to figure it out.
I think they need something like what Inter Milan got with Conte.
Yeah.
They need someone who's going to come in and take absolute nonsense. And it needs to be driven through that whole club.
Yeah.
Thomas Partey, would Simone let him go for any reason other than he's injured all the time? He was meant to be coming in and be that big presence in midfield when Xhaka was already there, giving the 110%, which I didn't agree with the fans kind of diving on him. I think he got made a bit of a scapegoat, to be honest, and I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you can say it from both sides, but I think sometimes if the good of the club is at the heart of your thinking, you have to park that sometimes and go, well, look, he's more than made up for it and stuff like that. I mean, they threw him around. He played in a number of positions last season.
Hey, left back.
He always gives you 100%. But
Smith Rowe and Saka, I think, salvaged their season. And that shouldn't come down to you to salvage your season. Yeah. They should be getting taught and led by example from the likes of the captains, the likes of the leaders in the dressing room. Yeah. Aubameyang's just happy to go missing and take a wage. In my opinion, too much and too often.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Lunchtime kickoff Saturday. This is where the proper heats up. Man United versus Leeds.
What a game. Yeah, what a game.
What a game to kick off the season for these two clubs. I'm sure Dino was absolutely stoked at this, dying to get his hands on United.
Quick note on Leeds, and obviously for Dino, very, as me and you are well accustomed to, very happy to have them back home where they belong. Had an absolute outstanding season, gave us a right scare on the opening day last season, put it up to us, put up to everybody, to be honest. Top six didn't matter to them. They had no fear, and they should be fully commended on how they played. Patrick Bamford, you know how I felt about him. I defended him every week, and I'll continue to do so. I thought he did it above and beyond. When he was coming from the Championship, I'm sure not many people, obviously Dino would have agreed that he would be able to do it. A lot of people would have probably said, no, Leeds need a striker, who can do it in the Premier League. They stuck with him, and he delivered. I was devastated he didn't get to go to the Euros because I felt he deserved the place, in my opinion. Rafinha, world class. No disrespect to Leeds fans, but I would have him at Liverpool. It was his class.
And also Calvin Phillips, who's had an outstanding Euros.
For the Euros, my God, talk about how to put your name on, you know what I mean? Protecting the back four, range of pass and tackling the lot. I think Leeds are going to push on this season. And I think they could be looking at that top six, and realistically so. They tied Jack Harrison down, who had a very good season from Man City. So I'm very happy for him, and obviously for Leeds, that's his club. He knows where he's at. But he played like that anyway, he played for the badge. You could see that he wanted to be at Leeds. Man United, Jesus Christ. I still think they have a midfield conundrum that has to be solved, in my opinion. Up front, I think they're a bit light, because I don't think Anthony Martial is the conundrum to solve that. United around. Cavani has proven himself. Mason Greenwood is absolutely outstanding. I think he's going to come on leaps and bounds. Both feet, his finishing is excellent. You have Rashford out with surgery for his shoulder, which probably should have happened a lot sooner. I don't know how many United fans will feel about that, but I think he should have got that done sooner, and instead of being kind of kept on in games and stuff like that. Paul Pogba, for some reason, can't play centre midfield for Manchester United, so they allocate him a position out on the left. I wouldn't. It's Manchester United. I wouldn't be allocating anybody a position.
Yeah.
I'd be getting him out the door. Don't think he deserves to be at Man United. I think the back line of Man United with Varane coming in and Sancho's coming in obviously to the midfield, have to give them credit. That's two world-class signings, in my opinion. If you don't have Van Dijk and you get Varane, who's after Van Dijk that you'd be looking at in centre half in the world? Rafael Varane is in the conversation, obviously. I think Maguire will benefit instead of having to kind of babysit Lindelof, who gets absolutely bullied and shafted every game. I felt Maguire had to take a lot of the defending on his own at times for both of them. Wan-Bissaka, I think, is a player, if he could work on his forward game, his defending is very good. 1v1, he's excellent. If he could work on his forward game and try and match Luke Shaw's outstanding up and down on the other side, then United will have another asset and another kind of attack. But I do think they have a lot to solve. How do you feel about the midfield? Do you think they have to solve that midfield conundrum? Is an awful problem to solve at Man United, I feel, anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think they're covered in the back line. I think they obviously have to figure out the goalkeeping situation as well and make that very clear from the get-go. I think they have a lot of cover there at the back now. I think with Varane coming in, I think Lindelof there, Boy, Tunsabi obviously went out on loan, but I think even in the key, so the wing areas and stuff like that, they've covered there for Shaw now with Telles. They have Wan-Bissaka there. There's talk of Trippier coming in. They'd be well covered. I think up front, they have an abundance of riches and plenty of options there. I think Bruno, will kick on and have a better season, no doubt about it. But I do think it's that kind of Pogba, McTominay, Fred pivot kind of thing that they have to try and figure out. Now, Martin was on GP last night with us on the show. He reckons that United are going to switch and go 4-3-3 this season. Which
like
will
a three across the midfield.
Yeah, which will be an interesting one. I mean, you would have thought with the abundance of riches that they have up front now that they wouldn't be overly playing sensitive and defensive and stuff like that, So, I mean, the thoughts of putting McTominay in there with Fred and stuff like that in that defensive holding area.
I have a different opinion on it. I don't think United need two sitting midfielders, especially in certain games. It's very strange to me. Like we'd have in Liverpool's aspect, we have Fabinho, protect the back four, grand, but he has a range of passing as well, and he can forward pass. I think United's conundrum is we need to protect the back four with a lesser body number, like one, but also have a range to get Bruno involved, to pick up Bruno and to pick out the wide players. Be able to distribute from the back to the front, from midfield. Yeah. If you had a Saul in there, you'd have no problem. Put him in there on his own and let him have the range, but he's not out of position at the same time. He's protecting while he's playing these advancing passes.
Yeah.
McTominay, he's very honest, isn't he? Like, he's very honest in his game and he's very workmanlike. But does he have the passing and does he have the other bit as well? You question that, I would say.
Well, in fairness, I mean, in the same fixture last season, he had a great game because I think he scored a hat-trick in 9 minutes or something like that.
I do think, though, how do you feel, Niall, about that? I don't think the two is the way forward for them, in my opinion.
I definitely don't think they need the two with Varane going in there, because Varane is nearly like that extra body for you there when you think about it. I think you're right, and I think Martin might be right last night as well. I think you're looking at 4-3-3, and I think if they go 4-3-3, they'll have a lot more attacking options. But it's again,
you could kind of have
it's how
Bruno of the like in a triangle, Bruno at the spear of the tree as such, like.
Yeah. So definitely interesting. What's your call on this one?
It's very hard to call. Like it really is. I think because Leeds going to Manchester, a lot of history in that game as it is.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna go for a score draw.
Are you? I'm gonna go for a Manchester win because they've had a really good pre-season. In fairness, they've hit the ground running. But I also think the Old Trafford crowd being back in there again will have to pumped up, and I think it might be just a bit too much for Leeds. But then again, Leeds could catch them cold at the start of the season. But again,
Yeah,
they
I
had a
was
real good
reading that
pre-season. I mean, they put 4 past Everton the other day, and they were 4 good
Varane
goals.
and Sancho weren't ready for the game. United will have to kind of go with the tried and trusted. I'd worry about Lindelof beside Maguire. I just think he's so suspect, and Maguire knows that and feels he has to balance it out with the two of them.
Yeah.
I think if Shaw or Wan-Bissaka coming forward, can Rafinha get in on the opposite side, cause a lot of trouble. I can see Bamford maybe trying to attach himself to Lindelof, unsettle him a lot and try and stay on his side, force a mistake.
Yeah.
I do think Leeds could turn up though the first game of the season. I do think it could be. I'm gonna go score or draw.
Yeah. I'm gonna go for a Manchester win. I think. I just think they might have just a little bit too much, but we'll see. Hopefully, I'm proven wrong. Let's move on. Let's get into these 3 o'clocks. Burnley versus Brighton.
Jesus Christ. No disrespect to Burnley, but I hope Brighton win. I like kind of Graham Potter's take on football. I like his philosophy. He's trying to play football the right way, and they have a decent little team there. Trossard is a very highly rated player. They have their core, bar Ben White, obviously is gone, but bar that, I think they've been able to keep things really okay. Maupay is a bit of a threat in there. Like to see a bit more from Conley from an Irish point of view as well. Like to see him, maybe push on a bit. Great work rate that he has, but I'd like to see him maybe kind of pick up a few more goals for being a striker.
I suppose the difficulty is you're going down to Turf Moor and the fans are back, which is a very tough place to go.
It's going to be physical as well, Yeah.
And I'd expect Burnley to do a bit better this season. I think once they have the fans back, I think that is a bit of a stronghold for them, Turf Moor and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And then I think the likes of Chris Woods and stuff will benefit from that as well.
Are you going Burnley win for home?
I think I'm going to go Burnley win. Yeah. As much as it kills me because I wouldn't be a Deutsch fan really at all.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I'm in the same boat.
And the funny thing, I did used to like him, but I just think he's gone a bit bananas or something like that.
I think if the game was at the Amex, would you say you'd be leaning more to Brighton?
Yeah, because they play more
playing that kind of football at the Amex with the fans.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, these teams that we talk about in this lower half, the Burnleys and the Brightons and all them, it's when the fans are back, it's a different kind of prospect. But it's also a more daunting prospect. If this was a COVID situation and no fans in the stadium, I'd kind of fancy Brighton because they might play expansive football like the Amex down in Turf Moor. But I think going to Turf Moor, full house, I think Brighton, I think Potter might be a little bit cautious, especially opening day of the season, because this is one of these
reminiscent of Stoke City, isn't it? Like, you used to go to Stoke and it was a cauldron of just noise and physicality. And
I think with this one, this is a very early bottom 6 pointer, and I just think it might be a cautious approach. So I'm going to go Burnley by a goal or so, maybe.
I'm going to go for a 0-0.
Okay.
I'm going to go for just maybe two of them kind of just,
both cautious.
Maybe happy enough with a point. I think Brighton will take a point at Burnley. They might go there with that kind of mentality, as in at a certain point of the game, they'll be happy with the draw. If Burnley don't take their chances, they'll be maybe happy with a 0-0. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 myself in that.
Next one up, Chelsea Palace.
Jesus, a very interesting game. Chelsea are my favourites for the league. No disrespect to my own club or to anyone else's, but Chelsea fear me the most in the league. Rightly so. Tuchel, we said it many times, full camp. What a job he did when he came in, put his stamp on the club very quickly. New signing coming in, obviously Romelu Lukaku will be coming in, and I think the likes of Werner, Havertz and that will all adapt and learn from that, and I think they will function together instead of in and out. I don't think anyone like Werner will lose his position. I think he will gather a lot from Lukaku playing off him and integrate with him very well. Patrick Vieira comes into Crystal Palace. A lot of outgoings at Crystal Palace towards the end of last season. Gary Cahill to name one. A lot of contracts that didn't get resolved, and that was that. So you're not really making money on that either. They've been flirting with relegation a number of times, as you know yourself. Is Wilfred Zaha's commitment an issue? Is it going to be an issue for Patrick Vieira? Maybe so. Zaha always expects and believes that he should be at a bigger club. That's up for debate. I know many people have different opinions on Zaha. I think his attitude is a bit of an issue. Not saying his quality is, but managing him is a different ball game. I think for Patrick coming in, he wants to kind of, with the signings he made, like Conor Gallagher is an exceptional talent. He was on loan at West Brom, on loan from Chelsea, gone to on loan to Crystal Palace, where he'll get more game under his belt. I'm sure he'll start.
Yeah.
Loftus-Cheek he's gone back to Chelsea, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So there's another kind of for them, it's a big body in there. Will Patrick get the time? We don't know. I don't think so, sadly. When things don't go your way, who does it fall on?
Yeah.
But how do you feel about him kind of coming into the Premier League as a manager and with the kind of outgoings and everything else?
Yeah, I don't know whether Patrick Vieira is the right fit for Crystal Palace. Yeah. I can't see anything here, only a Chelsea win.
I'm gonna go a comfortable Chelsea win with a clean sheet. No disrespect to Palace, but just how I see it, how I feel about it.
Yeah. Let's move on. Everton, Southampton.
Oh God. What ground is it at? Not that it makes a difference.
It's at Goodison.
Oh Jesus Christ. A bit bitter, not gonna lie, about Rafa taking the job. He hasn't obviously gone directly to Everton, so don't hold too much against him. He's been at Chelsea, you know what I mean? Whatever. His signings, or Everton's signings, are very strange to me. They seem like, a bit. Damari Gray is a bit of a bargain. And what was the other one? Townsend on a free, Begovic on a free, and there was another one, wasn't there?
Bertrand, was it?
Was it? No, he's gone to Leicester, isn't he?
Oh, Leicester, sorry, yeah.
Damari Gray from Leverkusen. And, when you look at the Ancelotti effect, Ancelotti had a big draw to Everton. The likes of James Rodriguez, the likes of Allen, really big players. Would other managers be able to draw them as a player at Everton? I don't think so. No disrespect. Rafa's came in. You know what Rafa's like yourself. He's very set in his ways and he doesn't really care about making friends or upsetting people.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I'm very concerned for Southampton. I'll be completely honest. Overall, Danny Ings, you're taking a lot of goal threat out of there. That could save you in a season. They signed Armstrong from Blackburn yesterday. I don't know much about him. It looks like, kind of a hit and a hope, that he'll come in and hit the ground running. Shea Adams is okay. He's not a 20-goal player, is he, though? Like, him and Ings had a good partnership between them. They were right, we're going to be okay. We're safe enough. I really liked them as a relationship.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at it and it stinks of a draw. I think Southampton are going to struggle this season big time in terms of goals. And we seen even last season when they were flying at one stage, and then once they lost things, they just crumbled down the table. You know what I mean?
I'm very interested to see Niall and how you feel about it as well. How do you think the likes of Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin will do under Rafa, under that kind of regime and that managerial style?
I don't know whether that's a good fit either.
Yeah, I know. Richarlison especially.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if Rafa Benitez is gone by the new year. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Can you see a lot of disruption coming and a lot of disagreement and a lot of...
Yeah, well, I think what happens there is there's a lot of within that Everton side, it's a little bit ropey in terms of the way they want to carry on and do things, So I just think it's a little bit concerning, really, And I think with Rafa being so set in the way he does things, I think it could create a real problem in terms of the attitude of those players, because they seem, even under Ancelotti, they seem to have a go into business for themselves kind of Yeah, I'm looking at Rafa Benitez in there with Everton. I think some of those players go into business for themselves, and that won't sit well with Rafa. He runs kind of a tight ship and a tight train there, and I just think that'll be kind of foreign to some of those players. So we'll
Do you
see
think
what happens.
that reflects on his signings? Demarai Gray, he's not really going to have a big, say, as in he'll do what Rafa kind of says to do. Townsend on a free.
To be honest with you, I think it's a case of Everton getting what they can get, and that's it. I just don't think, in terms of the picture, in terms of what's out there in the market. Plus, you can see the market is so inflated at the moment. Everton aren't really in the picture, so they're just picking up what they can. I'm just thinking a draw on this one.
I'm gonna go Everton win. I'm gonna go 2-0. I really think Southampton are gonna have a struggle this season, which is sad, but they have been flirting. Can they hold on to Romeo? Can they hold on to Ward-Prowse? I don't think for much longer, sadly. If they go down or whatever, they won't be hanging around.
Let's move on. Leicester Wolves.
I'm very concerned about as well. I think they could be in big trouble. I know I watched the Monday match. One of the lads think they could be top 6. So I'd love to, everyone has their own opinion. But I could see that manager going before Vieira or after Vieira. I don't know much about him. He's coming into a foreign job from Portugal. I know that. This was Nuno's baby. You have to remember that. Wolves were feared by a lot of teams, and we had great admiration for Nuno and the Wolves that he had. They were a force to be reckoned with. They came in and put it up to everybody, kind of similar to a Leeds. Built a very nice team, very nice squad, very hard to beat, very resolute. Weren't beaten until the whistle was finally over. Now, sadly, Raul Jimenez, is he going to be the same? Probably not, which is sadly understandable. Going up for heading and maybe, going up for challenges, or how he feels generally. Is his mindset going to be completely there? Sadly, I don't think so. We took Jota to Liverpool, which was a great signing as well.
Yeah.
And I just look at their business. Rui Patricio has left to go to Roma to join up with Jose. They've got in Sa. Another player, he doesn't know the Premier League, and a foreign manager coming in with foreign players. You know yourself, Niall, is it not really a great mix for a success at times? You know what I mean?
And then they're up against a buoyant Leicester side who are doing real good things under Brendan Rodgers.
I'm very jealous of Brendan that they got Patson Daka. I have very high hopes for him. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to be embedded, because Brendan, I'm sure, will manage him correctly and efficiently. Maybe he's looking at Vardy and saying, look, I'm going to give Vardy, so many games and minutes and manage him a bit better as he's getting on, and throw Patson in beside him. Imagine him and Iheanacho. I think that could be frightening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Together. Leicester, I fancy a Leicester win comfortably. No disrespect to Wolves.
Same. I'm taking a Leicester win as well. Those fans back in there again as well.
That could be a major scoreline. I think that could be a 3-0 job even. I think
Yeah, definitely a comfortable Leicester win anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Watford Villa.
I think Aston Villa are going to be. Don't even know if it's right to use the term surprise package, because I think they're going to be very, very taken seriously this season. Ian Smith is a very exceptional manager. Their business has been absolutely spot on. To lose a player like Jack Grealish and not to go out and absolutely just piss it into the wind like some clubs would do, just kind of panic and go, oh, here, look, get him for 60 million and just piss it back down the drain. They've identified targets. They've kind of went for the right way about it. Buendia is absolutely quality. He was way too good for the championship. He was saying he was the championship's best player. I wasn't even that. He was just too good for the championship. No disrespect to Norwich.
Yeah.
I think he is going to shine at Villa. Very exciting times, I'm sure, as a Villa fan. The likes of Leon Bailey, Danny Ings, Tuanzebe coming in on loan. And the squad that they already had there. McGinn is top notch. The keeper is top notch. Watkins had a good season. I'm sure you were the same, though. I'm sure you have high aspirations for Villa as well.
Villa is definitely a team that have gone out there and done great business in the transfer window and did a lot of really good business even prior to the Grealish money. So I'd imagine they're not finished there yet. Again, Watford is another one. They're a kind of club I see. It's just a yo-yo club coming up and down each season.
I don't have any hopes for Watford in the Premier League this season.
No. And I think even though they're at home and the fans will be there and stuff like that, again, the Villa team, it might be a good time for Watford to play them because they might not have gelled together yet and stuff like that. It might take a bit of time to figure out these players. But again, I can't see anything only a Villa win.
The problem as well with Watford is they don't really hold on to managers often. That they're very happy fire trigger happy as well. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
For me, I'm gonna go a Villa win. It mightn't be as comfortable as they would like yet because the players haven't really gelled. But I do see them getting over the line against Watford.
Yeah, definitely. 5:30 game, Norwich versus Liverpool.
I remember we had Norwich before wasn't it the season before, was it?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are pinning them to go down. I'm gonna actually say for me they're not a relegation candidate. I don't think they're gonna go down. I'll tell you just my opinion why. Then it's different than before. A lot of the time you could say that they could be in that bracket of Yo-Yo Club because they literally just keep the team that they came up with and it doesn't, evolve in the Premier League. Look at how good Pookie was in the Championship and then he had a little bit of fire in the Premier League and then it fizzled out. And then they were like, we're in trouble. He's not scoring here like no one else is, that kind of way. Buendia will be a massive loss. But Billy Gilmore is an exceptional talent to get from Chelsea. I think he's gonna run the midfield for Norwich. And if they can call onto Todd Cantwell, who I have very high hopes of a move down the line, no disrespect to Norwich, he could probably play at Villa, maybe even higher. I think he's a quality player. He's a number 10. I think with Gilmore, if they can hold on to Cantwell, they have two lads coming from Werder Bremen who I'm very familiar with. One is Josh Sargent. He's a USA striker. He's young. Obviously, he hasn't played in that league. Could come to the league and could set it alight. Could do absolutely nothing. We don't know. Another player who's been very touted around Europe is Emilio Rashica. He's also from Werder Bremen, who I'm very excited to see in the Premier League. He's a bit of like a playmaker / kind of like goals assist, like an Ozil kind of style. Again, it's Werder Bremen coming to the Premier League, newly promoted Norwich. Can you have an impact? Or can you be the impact and you might get a move? You might be getting kept in the Premier League anyway.
Yeah.
I think they might surprise a few people this season. I think Billy Gilmore going in is an exceptional bit of quality, even though he's only on loan Chelsea, he's only a young player. But he has that, doesn't he have that confidence? He has that kind of maturity about him.
Yeah.
And I think they could be really up for it this season. And for us, pre-season, bar Andy Robertson, I think went pretty well. I think you'd agree with that. I think you'd be satisfied. Andy Robertson's situation, now, you'll have your own opinion. I watched the games like yourself. I was very impressed with Simicast in pre-season, and I'll give credit where it's due. He was getting involved. He was doing his work rate up and down, but what was most effective about him was his delivery can be high and low. He seems to understand where the ball has to go and what way it should go. Remember, he hit a low one into Mane, but he also has a good whip of a ball as well, which is something that we require from a wing-back. Obviously, Robertson does a game in, game out. Is the time now for Smithcast looking at Robertson being out, does Klopp turning to him and say, you're going in there, you're going to start left back and I trust you. Maybe this makes him.
Yeah, this is the opportunity he's been waiting for. You know what I mean? And I mean, there's no doubt when Andy Robinson comes back, he'll go back into the team. But at least if Simicast goes in there and he puts in a real good shift for the next 4 to 6 weeks, at least he's given Klopp food for thought that he does have a natural replacement for Andy Robinson if he does get injured, or at points of the season if he feels he needs a rest, he can have the confidence that Simicast is there to go in and do a proper job.
Another player pre-season, Naby Keita, if he can stay fit, there's something there, but it's just about giving him a consistent run of games. He might be able to salvage his career, but I think this is the last chance. It's 52 million. It's now or never. I think Klopp is going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I feel that. And I think if he could stay fit, he could be a very big player to the team. I do think he could play a lot of games. Harvey Elliott has been outstanding in pre-season for his age. Oh my God, 18 years of age.
He certainly, the loan move to Blackburn has certainly matured him greatly. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I originally thought he was going to go out on loan. Might do him the world of good in the Premier League, but I think Klopp sees him, which you and Dean have touched on before, a bigger part of the club and a bigger part of the furniture that he can feel he can embed him into some games. Chamberlain is another one. is the time going to come where he's going to actually get involved and actually play for the, a run of games and actually do something in these games?
He's had an outstanding pre-season.
This is it. The squad depth is still a bit of a problem, in my opinion. I do think we're a bit light.
Yeah.
But how do you see us lining up as in a front three against Norwich? Does Jota come in, or does Bobby start with the two lads out wide? How do you feel about that kind of conundrum?
I don't know, you see, because Bobby's only back a week, isn't he?
From Brazil, was it fucking...
So he's only back in pre-season a week, so they could go with Mane. They could go with Mane, Jota, and Salah, because Bobby's only back a week. You know what I mean? The other thing they could look at doing as well is they've been using Oxlade-Chamberlain in that position,
like a false nine.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's his thinking as well. But meant to be saying, but I think this is just a case Liverpool have to get through this game and get their season.
Do you think we're going to see Konate and Matip as the two because of when you take everything into consideration, or do you think Virgil has had enough minutes and enough training and enough exercise in the tank to go from a starting point of view?
I think what he'll do is he'll drift between those three of Virgil, Konate, and Joe Gomez. And I think what he'll do is if he plays Virgil and Konate this week, next week he might change it up just to bed them in nice and slow. Because I know looking at Virgil and Gomez, they've only had, I think the most minutes they've played is about 45 or something like that. They've only kind of played a half.
Yeah, Virgil, I think, got to 70 the last game, didn't he? But that was it. Now, that was as far as he went, like,
But, Konate looks amazing. I mean, that game against
he looks an absolute monster. He does.
But even
the guy over your shoulder there,
the
number 6 over your shoulder, I'm expecting a much better time from him. Towards the end of last season, I thought we seen a glimpse of what he was about and what we signed, Thiago.
Yeah.
I think from like a Kai Havertz situation, he came in, he was injured, he was struck with COVID. Now he has that kind of full kind of, and with the lads properly. And all the other lads coming back will only help him with Virgil behind him and the likes of that and everything else.
Absolutely.
I do think we'll get the job done. I think we'll beat Norwich okay though.
Yep, same. That's my thinking. Let's move on. Sunday, 2 decent games on Sunday. 2:00, Newcastle, West Ham.
Interesting game. West Ham, the surprise package of last season. David Moyes did an absolute outstanding job, and credit to them. They finally kind of switched from that old school physicality style set piece football to being actually able to play nice expansive football. The signings were spot on. Kufal and Souček were immense. From relatively unknown backgrounds, I never heard of either of them. I hold my hand up, but they were immense. Benarama, I think, is a player to watch this season. I think he might get going now with a full camp under his belt. Another one of those.
Yeah. Very,
very nice, attractive player, similar to Ramirez. If Antonio can stay fit as well, you know how dangerous he is. I don't know if West Ham can reach that again. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Lingard was immense when he went on that loan. That's kind of, deteriorated, and it doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. But I also give credit to the likes of Villa and Leeds, who I think are just that bit more equipped overall, which means I think West Ham might kind of, falter a little bit. Only because of that. I think these other two might be kind of, better equipped. Newcastle, I actually feel for Steve Bruce. What the Geordie fans are like, they're up there with, the most vocal and the most passionate. Massive club. Absolutely massive. They've got Joe Willock in on a permanent deal, which is good business. I think, Arsenal weren't going to use him, and he did very well on his spell there.
It's a great bit of business. At 25 million, it's a great bit of business.
25 million in this rate.
Yeah.
Can they hold on to St. Maximum? I think is a big question. He's only going to get better, more noticed, more relaxed in the league, more suited to the league. I think he's a good player, and I think he might have another good season. The striking, the up front is a conundrum. Carroll is gone. Gale, Joe Linton hasn't done it really, has he? Like, you know what I mean? And you know what Newcastle are like, Niall. If things aren't going their way, they let you know pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think Newcastle this season will be heavily reliant on the 12th man at St James's Park to bring them through.
It could be the difference, to be honest. It could be the difference.
That's what I think they'll be heavily relying on. And you know yourself, as soon as things go a little bit astray there, as you said, those fans, they'll be in on Brucey without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm going to go for a score draw again in that game.
That was my thinking on it. That was my thinking. As I said, I don't think West Ham can hit those heights again. And I agree. Think Newcastle with a full crowd in there and St. James is being that focal. I think they'll have that 12th man behind them to see them through to grab a point each. That's the way I see it going. Let's round out the weekend, 4:30. Probably the fixture of the weekend, apart from United and Leeds, I suppose. Tottenham, Man City.
What a game. Jesus Christ.
This is the Harry Kane show, isn't it?
It's unfortunately going to be the talking point, isn't it? You know, he obviously done the show with Graham, and fair play to Graham for coming on. I know it's hard. If I was in that position, very hard to kind of talk about a player over the club. You know, instead of your club, you should be kind of talking about. I just think Daniel Levy is holding Man City as long as he can, or he's just waiting to press the button. Now, you know Levy. He's an absolute wheeler dealer. He's a shrewd businessman. Do you know what? And I don't mean this in any disrespect to Spurs fans. I'd love to get their opinion. He's the kind of guy who will leave that till the last minute, and he doesn't care about another player coming in. That's how I see it. Once he gets that package of money, he doesn't mind. He's satisfied.
Well, I think they're heavily linked. They're heavily linked with Lautaro, aren't they? Yeah.
Lautaro, my Inter Milan, sadly my other striker.
Yeah.
What a player. Very exciting future ahead of him. South American. He's Argentinian. A lot of people can say how well it went for Lukaku, but trust me, this player's involvement was heavily involved in that as well.
Yeah.
The two of them had an outstanding partnership. He gets goals, he gets assists, he has a clinical work rate. I think he's the kind of player that Nuno would like, you know, a Nuno style, like a Jimenez. Yeah. I think he would fall under that category. I do think he could develop a partnership with Son over time. He's that kind of player, like he's very unselfish, he's very team first kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nuno, very hard time for Nuno to come in, isn't it? You know, you're a new manager and your star players, you know, out the door. Has he got to work with him? Probably. I don't even think so. I have a very high admiration for Nuno. Really like him as a coach. I really, I worry for him at the same time as I worry for Tottenham, though, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's a big step up for him. In terms of expectation at the club. I mean, it was only 3 years ago they were in the Champions League final or whatever it was.
Massive step. So
it's a massive step up for him in terms of expectation. An unbelievable stadium, probably the best stadium in the Premier League. But I just think the problem that I see at Tottenham is they can't figure out the back line and they haven't made the investment in it.
It must have changed. Like last season, we didn't every week. Well, like every second week.
Every other game. But
the signing Romero from Atlanta, I think, is a really big plus. Yeah. He's a very, very, you know, high caliber player from Atlanta. I think he'd be able to deal with the physicality and the pace of the Premier League. But as you just touched on, one centre back isn't going to solve the back four. That's not going to do it. I'm very surprised, and I actually want to get your opinion, Niall. I think you touched on it with Dean on the transfer show. I had high hopes for Tanganga. Thought I rated him very highly. But he's been loaned to Turkey, I believe, hasn't he?
The talk is he was going out to Galatasaray. I don't know whether that's confirmed or not, but there was definitely an interest there.
Yeah, because I did kind of rate him a bit. You know, I did think he had a bit of a future.
He came across very well in the Amazon documentary and stuff like that. But I just think if you look at last year, nothing really happened for him. You know, it ended up being quite stale. But I just think with Spurs, the job there at the moment is so massive in terms of the rebuild and in terms of sorting things out.
And will Nuno get this time?
And not only this time, but will he get the time that, like, if Kane stays, fine. If Kane goes, the timing of that, will he have the time to bring in what he needs? And my fear for Spurs is that Kane, as you said, could go very late in the window and they may not have a plan to bring players in quick enough. And
the only way... Go on, sorry.
And I just think Spurs, without Harry Kane's goals, you're looking at a middle to bottom. You know, you're looking at mid-bottom half.
A quick note for Tottenham fans that might keep the striking option alive with Lautaro. this isn't a team that sadly, and it kills me to say, I have to be realistic, Inter Milan cannot hold on to assets. If Spurs fans are watching, now as an Inter Milan fan, like they are not in a position to negotiate, sadly. They're not in a position to, we don't want to accept that, we want to really keep them. The Sunning Group are in debt. They have a ton of packages out, as well as financial, loan deals, wages. There's a lot that needs to be, put out there.
I think in the last week of the transfer window, there's a lot of teams in the same position. There's a lot of teams financially struggling because of COVID. And I think you're going to see a lot of bargain deals coming through for quality players at a fraction of the price that you think. I don't see Martinez moving out of Inter Milan for 70 million or anything like it.
We're not in a position to do that, sadly. If Inter gets 60, they'll bite your hand off. And it kills me to say it. If Spurs put 60 on the table, I don't think Inter would say no. And that's the sad truth it is.
Yeah, well, I think Inter Milan have made it very clear that they're happy to sell. They sold Lukaku, and they said they're happy to sell Lautaro as well. So I don't think selling them is an issue. I think they've laid down a marker on a price that doesn't really sit well with Levy. And I'd say that price will gradually start coming down 5 million every couple of days as the window goes by.
How do you feel about City? How do you feel about City's business and how City are looking and going into the first game? And
it's hard to know, really, isn't it? Because they've brought in Grealish, but then again, how are they going to line up? Like, if Grealish is going in, does Sterling come out? And if it's like for like, does it improve them a hell of a lot more? Because Sterling had a great Euros. I know he was indifferent towards the end of the season at City, and I know that there was soundings there that he wanted to move away, and Real were interested in him and all this kind of thing. But I just think if you're taking Sterling out of the team and you're putting Grealish in, how much more do you improve? And I said it on the show the other night as well. I think if Kane comes in, the talk was that if they did sign Kane and Grealish, they would have to move out Mahrez, Sterling, and potentially Jesus. And I'm thinking
Bernardo Silva, possibly as well.
Yeah, well, I think he's just angling for a move anyway. I don't think he's linked to those transfers, but those three boys are. So I'm thinking if you take Man City and you drop Grealish and Kane in there, is it that much of a huge improvement if you take Sterling, Mahrez, and Jesus out? I'm not too sure.
The only notable improvement is that Aguero has gone and Gabriel Jesus just isn't up to it, in my opinion, as a striker.
Yeah, I think with Jesus as well, it's a little bit difficult with him as well because he's kind of a little bit stop-start. I mean, there's no doubt that there's talent there, but I mean, if I was Spurs, instead of going into the deal. Yeah, but instead of going into the transfer market, I'd be looking at taking a couple of those players as part of the deal with cash. I wouldn't be, and then it makes your life so much easier because you're not having to go out and do these last minute deals and ended up either with nothing or something that you didn't want. Because if you look at Spurs, the one thing going on at Spurs at the moment is they're sort of getting their third, fourth, and fifth choice. Look at with the manager situation, you know what I mean? So it's like.
Yeah, like that was very publicized as well. How bad that was, it was
Yeah, but they came out and they announced so much so early before it even happened, and they leaked it and stuff, So I mean,
did you see Harry Kane playing for Manchester City by the end of the transfer window?
No.
You don't think you go?
I've said it all along that I think at that price and at that level, I think Levy is pricing them out of the market to keep them there. And I think if City were to pull the trigger on that price at 150 or 160, it's absolutely craziness. I mean,
and his injuries as well with his ankles, it's a bit of a gamble.
But it's not even that. I mean, you're talking about 150, 160 million. You're going to be talking upwards of 350,000 a week in wages. It's a massive jump up.
If Kane stays and commits to Nuno, how do you see them doing? If it's just kind of like the window's closed, he's our player, and this is what we have. How do you see them?
Well, I think if Kane stays and he's content to stay and he's happy and he's not pissed, I think you'll get the same from them in around the top six. They still have the problems at the back. There's still issues there. I mean, they put Lloris out for sale and no one wanted him, the goalkeeper, who can be a bit suspect at times. You've got a mixed up defence there. He has no confidence, obviously, because he's a different defence nearly in front of him every week. They've got a midfield that I think is a little bit light. And then up front, obviously, they have the quality there with Son and Kane and, Moira's there as well. And,
do you think Dele Alli could reincarnate his career under Nuno?
I think there's an opportunity for that, but I think it's down to his attitude. I think he has to.
Yeah.
It's really down to him. It's not really down to Nuno. I think if he presents himself the right way and puts the shift in, I think Nuno will be happy to have him in there, and he'll feel like a new signing. We all know how talented Dele Alli is, but he just switches off like, and it's just, what do you do then? You know,
What's
I mean, it's
your
so difficult to
prediction
switch.
for the fixture?
The fix. I can only see a City win. Um, you know, they're coming off the back of a very disappointing Champions League final, and I think they'll be out with a point to prove this season. And I think Spurs, I just think it's again not dissimilar to Arsenal. It's the same old story again. Nothing really resolved at the back. Yeah, you bring Romero in, but you're only bringing in one piece of the jigsaw, and the other three pieces haven't been resolved. I think REA is
Yeah.
an absolute lunatic. I think Toby has moved on. So
I think the problem with Ramiro, though, you know, Varane coming into a new league, but Maguire is already accustomed to that league, whereas Ramiro's coming in. Who am I beside? Stavison Sanchez is extremely rash and hot-headed. You know, he needs someone who he can partner up with as a two. I think that's a major issue.
You're coming into a new league and you're expected to be the leader.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a difficult one as well. So I think Spurs, as I said, my predictions for the top six, Villa and Leeds are in there. Spurs are not in there, and Arsenal are not in there because I don't see how they've resolved their issues. The whole Kane thing is up in the air anyway, and if that continues on, if they don't come out with a statement saying that he's staying, that they're not going to bother moving him on, or he comes out with a statement to say that he's staying, otherwise I think Tottenham could have a very difficult August and until the transfer window actually officially closes. All that sort of predictable stuff will be there, and it will influence the games and stuff like that. Plus, you've got Kane going back in there again as well, and like he's been kind of disrespectful. He missed training, hasn't had a great pre-season, had a reasonable Euros, but I mean, he was out of the Euros. I mean, even if you look at, started off okay, but then went missing and then came back in towards the end.
And Nuno probably doesn't know what he's getting if he stays, you know.
I'd say Nuno will be fully aware. You mean in terms of attitude, will he be the right? I think Nuno's strong enough to figure that out pretty quick, you know.
Staying because Levy just wouldn't press the button, or is he staying because he wants to fully commit, you know?
Well, it's going to be because Levy didn't press the button, because Kane made it perfectly clear he wanted to move on and win silverware. And I still don't think, even with Nuno going in there and the business that they could potentially do or haven't done, they're not going to deliver silverware this year. They're nowhere near.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And I think looking into this year as well, I think that Europa Conference is going to be the hammer that hits the nail at Tottenham. And I think Tottenham are going to finish potentially even lower down this season. And I think Arsenal will as well. I think the whole talk of the old traditional top four or top six, I think those days are gone. And it's unfortunate. I think Arsenal have a mountain of work to do to be back in that conversation. And I think Tottenham at the moment have even a bigger mountain to climb in terms of, if Kane goes, they're going to be in trouble. If Kane stays, they could still find themselves in trouble because you've got a guy there who wanted to move, So
it's mad because we used to kind of just put the top six in like, it was automatically the top six clubs. We were just putting them in order.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like refreshing that we're saying like Villa and Leeds will probably be there because they should be there and they deserve to be there, on their business and on the condition that they're in,
Yeah, I think if you're one of the traditional top six sides, if you drop your game anyway at all, or you take stuff for granted, that's the beauty of the Premier League. It's so competitive. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. But I think if you do drop your level that you operate on, you can be quickly found out even by a lesser team. And I don't see Tottenham catching City cold.
How do you feel about Brendan and Leicester? Do you feel they can sustain the consistency of being up and around there, or do you feel that could be a drop off as well? Or
well, I think the quality is there, but it hinges on Vardy, doesn't it? The quality really hinges on Vardy because
he can adapt to that league.
Yeah, I think Brendan's doing a fine job at Leicester. I think Fofana is a loss.
Massive
with the leg break, which is unfortunate for the kid. But I think it hinges on Vardy because we even seen it last year. I know Tielemans scores goals, and I know Iheanacho has come in and scored goals and stuff like that. But unless Vardy's on form, they do tend to struggle, and we've seen it. We've had 2 or 3 seasons now in a row now where they have fallen away. At times where they've been up in the top 4 all season and just fall away at that crucial time. You know what I mean? And I think
because
that's
his goals kind of dried up a bit, and then they've nowhere to go. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I suppose for Leicester City as well. I mean, they're a fantastic club. They won the Premier League and stuff like that. They went out and they won the FA Cup last season. So Brendan's doing an unbelievable job there. But he has a great core group of players there. So Onchu was
yeah, Harvey
there.
Barnes outstanding and all.
Yeah, he has
Madison.
Casper's there and all. He has a great squad there that is competitive on its day with any team. But it's just yourself, any kind of slight injuries or imbalance to the team, and then they kind of get found out a little bit. But yeah, I can only see good things for Leicester City. I think they'll build on it. I think there's a great project going on there. As you said, Daka came in, hopefully a long-term replacement for Vardy when it's called for. But I'd say him and Vardy could easily link up as well. Ian Nacho's there, outstanding player when he's on form. Tillemans, I mean, we're Liverpool fans. We know how good Tillemans is. We'd have him any day.
He's outstanding.
Yeah, so I can only see good things for Leicester, But again, I don't know if they'll be able to get off and run the way they did last season and stay in the top four for the same length of time. And I think if they drop out of the top four, they might drop even further. And that's what I'm saying. I'm
that
not
might
sure.
be a way to claw back in this time around,
Yeah, it's the age-old thing. The Thursday night football catches up on you eventually. You know what I mean? You're playing Thursdays and then you're playing either Saturday evenings or Sundays or Mondays. So you're always playing catch up all the time. And I think after a while it just wears you down. And that's why
we might see Daka maybe a lot more in the European games because of Vardy for the weekend as such or stuff like that. That kind of.
Look, with the talent that Daka is, I think you're going to see lots of him anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him.
He's not moved there to carry Vardy's boots, that's for sure. But yeah, listen, great roundup. Appreciate you coming on. It'll be interesting to see on the Monday mashup how our picks went.
Get your money on Brentford on Friday and start off the weekend.
Absolutely. Let's kick the season off for a few.
Tony on the body.
That's it. I have a Tony to score and Brentford to win. Both teams to score. It seems like a great bet. Listen, appreciate you coming on. Dynamo Podcast Network for the videos. Anchor has all the different versions of the audio shows in there. Just search Dynamo Podcast Network. You'll get all the audio versions shows. And we will review these predictions next Monday on the mashup. Craig, great having you on, my man.
Here's a